We're here to worship Jesus. Do you think Jesus would be understanding?
Christians are treated differently in this country. I think you'd be having a very different conversation if Nick Fuentes stormed into a synagogue.
My advice to you is stop being a Donald Trump cock.
This is
very interesting statement by Benny Johnson. I have to be careful. I can't let the introduction to Piers Morgan's show play out because of the music. So, you know, that's why I just had to shut it down immediately a little bit like that. But I have to say that I am quite shocked at Benny Johnson. Anyway, in this clip, we are going back to our Don Lemon situation. We're going to see how people are reacting to it. We're going to see how people like Benny Johnson, Brian Shapiro, and Piers Morgan and others are reacting to Don Lemon, failed ex-CNN host, rushing into a church with other activists claiming to be a reporter, but really just there for fun. And I'm going to look for the clip, too, of Don Lemon giving coffee to these people. I saw a lot of comments in my last video about this topic, and I didn't know about that. Guys, y'all got to bear with me. I'm trying to find all the, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know. I can't keep up because the thing is that I don't think like they do. You know, I didn't realize that there was a clip of Don Lemon passing coffee to his activist friends and saying we getting ready to go in there. Okay, so, but anyway, in this Piers Morgan clip, just going to watch the reactions of about Don Lemon, failed CNN host and failed at everything else host, going inside of churches and terrorizing people, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's a couple different ways here, Piers. I mean, number one, I think you'd be having a very different conversation if Nick Fuentes stormed into a synagogue, wouldn't you? And started harassing the rabbi? Wouldn't you be having a different conversation if Alex Jones stormed a mosque?
Sure, but that's
right. Like you'd be, well, no, I would apply. You'd be having a totally. You'd be saying this is. You'd be saying this is terrible. Like, how dare you? I'm saying that Christians are treated differently in this country, and that Don Lemon.
It's a very good question.
Was there?
No, I would say this. Benny, on that point,
that's wrong, and I would say also that's wrong.
Let me answer you.
I say all of the above are wrong. I just make my point. I've just been talking for like 10 seconds.
Did Don Lemon go in there and harass the?
No, let Benny finish his point.
Or did he?
But he did. I mean, look. Okay, so if you read did you read the federal filing? Did you read the grand jury indictment?
I watched the video.
Right, and they used the video.
It was on streams, Benny.
They watched the video in the grand jury indictment. They used his own video as the evidence against him, along with a number of other, and along with all of the evidence that was provided by the churchgoers. I'm saying that all of the above is wrong, and that you can't do that. That these are places of worship. These are also private property. And that Don Lemon was part of a conspiracy to do this because Don Lemon was working with the organizers. He was delivering coffee to them. He was working with the actual individuals who were planning this. He said so on his live stream. And then he went up to the front of the pulpit and started harassing the pastor there at the front of the pulpit. Now, what was also happening was also, it's on video. So what was also happening here was that little children were being wrongfully imprisoned. Do you know this? Like, little children were being wrongfully imprisoned. If you read the indictment, the children were being kept in their Sunday schools by the protesters, harassed, spit on, attacked. They weren't able to get to their parents. And Don Lemon says in the video, and thank you for mentioning this, Ethan, that is on video. Don Lemon says in the video, these children look traumatized. Well, actually, that's the point. This is an exact quote from his live stream. And so if you think that that's okay to do to like little children in a church or children in a synagogue or children in a mosque, I think it's all wrong. I think that these places of worship should be off limits for people protesting or attacking them.
Political operative. It's not his job is to lie.
Yeah, that's not what happened.
The administration.
That's right. Let me bring Brian. Okay. Hang on. Don't talk at once. Don't all talk at once. Let me get to Brian next. Brian, I do think Benny raised a good point. That's why I tried to answer his question in real time. But it was aimed at everybody, which is if that had been Alex Jones, who does a version of what Don Lemon does, but to the right, if he had gone into a mosque, for example, and he'd gone in with a group of protesters who then interrupted the worship and traumatized young Muslim kids, right, or whatever, an exact similar situation, but a mosque and it's Alex Jones. Can you say with all honesty, you would be out here defending Alex Jones?
Well, first of all, for full disclosure, I'm friends with Don Lemon. And to answer your question, Piers, if Alex Jones wasn't protesting, because Don Lemon wasn't protesting, Benny Johnson is lying when he says that Don Lemon harassed the pastor. If Alex Jones wasn't harassing anybody and didn't disturb anybody, I would be saying the same thing I'm about to say right now. Don Lemon was not protesting. He wasn't breaking the law. Maybe you could cite him for maybe trespassing. But the fact of the matter here is that this is not going to hold up in court. This is a charade. This is another example of the Donald Trump administration that is weaponizing the DOJ. And yes, I do think the color of his skin, certainly his politics and his sexuality have something to do with this. But you see, people like Benny Johnson, okay, who I do believe is a right-wing shill for Donald Trump, they're the first people after January 6th that called it a tourist visit. They patriots and hostages if you beat cops. But oh my God, Don Lemon didn't storm a church, by the way. He walked into the church, he took out his cell phone and he started recording. But to Benny, people like Benny, this is the worst thing in the world. Put him in jail. But yet when it comes to January 6th, if you beat cops, they're hostages and patriots. Benny, my advice to you is stop being a Donald Trump cuck and tell the truth and be honest for once in your life. I know you make a lot of money.
What about Steve Baker?
Every single day, but you're lying.
So wait a second. What about Steve Baker? So Steve Baker's a journalist for The Blaze. He was arrested for covering January 6th. So Steve Baker, was he just a journalist? Should he be freed? Are you in favor of Steve Baker being freed? Are you advocating for Steve Baker?
You see what Benny just did? The guy, his messiah, who he supports, Donald Trump, called those who beat cops with their own batons. Some of these cops have...
But answer his question, though, Brian. Brian, answer his question about Steve Baker.
Yes,
Steve Baker was sent to jail. Today's show is sponsored...
God, I hate you when he does that.
Yes, I believe that some of those like Baker, and I'm on the record saying this, Benny, were over-prosecuted. Absolutely. The people that I was concerned about on January 6th were those violent criminals. Don Lemon's never been arrested for a crime in his life. Don Lemon has never been charged with a crime in his life. He took out his cell phone, he recorded, he didn't storm the Capitol. Moments before, he walked into the church and he followed these people. He wasn't necessarily, quote, working with them. It's all on the live stream. And by the way,
you know the one flaw, okay, but Brian, the one flaw I think in that defense, and I broadly agree with you about this, I don't think he should be prosecuted, but he does, where I think he's a bit vulnerable, he does in his own live stream repeatedly use the word we are going to go in here, right? Now, if you're trying to paint a picture, as Benny did earlier, of a conspiracy where Don is not just a journalist reporting, but is actually an active participant in the protest group that goes in, using the phrase we are going to go in here, I think is going to be problematic for it because it implies that he is part of the protest group.
Yeah, because he didn't take his job seriously, because he has no job. Don Lemon is nothing but a grifter. That's what Don Lemon is, an activist now who used to be a journalist and is not a journalist anymore. Now listen, you guys are watching this and we all gonna be adults here, okay? Now sometimes there's time for a tough conversation or a noticeable thing. I do not understand why Piers Morgan asked two Jewish men if they would feel some type of way about somebody busting inside of a mosque. They're not Muslim. Okay? So there's no bias there. They're going to say, no, it's all part of whatever. Benny Johnson is saying what I've been saying. I don't care if it's a synagogue, a mosque, or a church. You can't bust inside of there thinking that you're going to do some protest, and then somebody claims to be reporting, is actually serving coffee. I found the clip, and saying we're going in there and everything. If you were going to report that, what you would have did was stay away from these people. You would have questioned them. You wouldn't be serving them coffee. You would make sure to say, when you do this, you're going to go inside and you this, and what do you think you're going to gain out of this? You wouldn't have looked so cozy. You would have did this in a way where you could tell that you're separating yourself as a journalist. That's not what Don Lemon did, and I'm going to share the clip. But it's funny because Brian Shapiro, I actually tweeted that to him in a response. I said, would you would you tell Christians basically to let it go, or or move on? I can't remember exactly what I said, but or to move on. Had it been a synagogue that this happened in, and he started cursing me, I'm not effing religious. That's not what I asked you, though. You're not asking. I don't care if you are or aren't, because you would. The mere presence of somebody busting open inside the door and going in there when they shouldn't be would have been called anti-Semitism. And you know what? I actually might have agreed with it, believe it or not. I might have, because I'd have been like, well, yeah, hold up. What is that person doing there just busting in like that? It does look a little volatile. It is a little anti-Semitic. That part, I would have actually agreed. Please be honest. Ethan Klein, another Jew. I mean, really, and he's sitting here having some sort of tardive dyskinesia, allegedly. He barely can answer the questions, but I don't know what kind of medication he's on. Somebody really should check that out. He wasn't always like that. Whatever, not my problem. Gonna go back to and share the clip with you guys.
Right now.
Thank you.
Follow Don Lemon. He ain't on CNN no more, so he right here in the front line.
Independent, yes. Tell me to come get some coffee.
Hey, Don Lemon got some coffee for y'all.
And donuts.
And donuts. And he ain't talking about police.
You want some coffee?
He want some coffee. Don Lemon. I trust Don Lemon coffee.
You want some coffee?
He ain't finna point you.
I want some coffee. Thank you, Don. Great to see you here. Thank you. Perfect.
Don Lemon is on the phone.
Absolutely. So thank you. I'm glad you guys told me to share that clip. Don Lemon sharing coffee. Don Lemon was an activist just like these people. He just could call himself a reporter with a mic, okay? Incognito. Don Lemon enjoyed what he did to that church. I'm going to tell you why. And you guys, again, we're going to have the adult conversations. Don Lemon is a black homosexual man. Now, I don't know why a black person would think that Christianity is against them. I don't know. I don't even know why a homosexual man would think that. And the reason why I'm going to say that is that Jesus doesn't hate you. And redemption is for everyone, and you could be better in Christ. Everybody can come to Christ. Everybody, you're never too dirty to come to Christ. Okay? There's that. But the fact is also, even though you see churches promoting this LGBT stuff lately, okay? But back in the day they didn't. But Don Lemon says that his Christianity, like, we don't do Christianity like back then, basically the white Christianity, where they didn't like homosexuals. But it has nothing to do with white Christianity. It's in the Bible, okay? Sorry, you'll have to talk to God about, about the rules, okay? So, yeah, I watched this clip of Don Lemon giving coffee to the people, laughing and stuff, joking around. This guy's a hateful man. I could say so many disgusting things about him, but I'll end it right here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.